Hi everyone, so it's Alex from the Beyond BCA team here for another episode of Talking Futures, and today we are joined by Mary Brosnan. Hi Mary.
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. So if we start off, I understand that you've got a background actually in corporate banking, but you're now actually the founder and owner of your own Montessori nursery. How did that sort of industry change happen? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, that's right, Alex. I started off after university in Ireland, and I went to a corporate bank called Allied Irish Bank. So that's where I started my graduate training program. I studied business in university, business and Spanish. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, but always wanted to work in business, I suppose. Started on the graduate program, which was excellent, really, really good opportunity to learn and to meet other sort of people in their 20s, starting off their careers and that kind of thing. So yeah, I did that for 7 years. And then the financial crash came along. And while I always knew I wanted to do something else, I wasn't really sure what it might be. And really luck and timing brought me to London, where I got a job with a nursery chain, which is now known as Bright Horizons. So I worked on the sort of the head office side of things there, and had some great opportunities while I was there. I wasn't involved with the children or anything at that stage, but my role was really looking at different things, all things commercial, whether it was occupancy around the nurseries, the websites, how to drive occupancy, looking at the compliance side of things, recruitment, all that kind of thing. And then the business that I worked for got bought by Bright Horizons. My role was made redundant, and long story short, I signed up for Montessori teacher training, which, as it happened, the Montessori Centre International was literally just around the corner. So having gone to an open evening with them, I decided to invest my redundancy payment in further qualifications and education. And I started training there. So and I absolutely loved it. It took me down a route that I didn't expect at all, to be honest with you. It was a very, over the next couple of years, I suppose without meaning to sound too kumbaya about it, I think my life and my own perspective changed a lot. What was important to me changed. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it and really enjoyed working with the children. I had the opportunity to set up my own business in Ascot then in Berkshire. And while I was very familiar, with the business side, albeit not an expert, but gravitated much more easily to the business side of things, I did train here with huge support from the Montessori Training Centre. And yeah, the rest is history. I've been here for 5 years. We started off, there was just myself and 2 other teachers and 4 children. And today, there's 24 staff employed part-time, full-time. We have about 70 children on site every day. So yeah, and the most important thing is that the children love it. We're now a Montessori accredited nursery, which I'm very proud of, because that takes many years of training. And we also, we've done that through EYFS trained practitioners. We have a couple of Montessorians who joined, having done their Montessori training straight in with us, but the majority are EYFS trained practitioners. So I'm very proud of the fact that whether you're EYFS trained or Montessori trained, we work together. We provide the best outcomes we can for the children, and yeah, the children are enjoying themselves and they're learning. So that's the main thing really for me.
Amazing. And so for those students that might not actually know what the difference between normal nursery and Montessori nursery is, do you mind quickly explaining the difference in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good question, Alex. There is a perception there that, there's a big difference between the Montessori approach and the EYFS approach, and actually nothing could be further from the truth. They are their teaching approaches that marry beautifully together. So you have a Montessori curriculum, which you learn as a student, and then you've the EYFS. Because we're registered by Ofsted, we follow the EYFS through the Montessori approach. But in terms of the areas of the curriculum, like physical, communication and language, PSED, and so forth, they're all matched with Montessori as well. So they do marry very well. I think traditionally Montessori's would have been term time only type nurseries, and they were traditionally for children who are aged 2.5 and up. However, what I've sort of learned on my own journey is that for us anyway, our parents tend to work throughout the year. So term time only doesn't tend to work for them. And also sort of where we are, geographically, there may not be grandparents or other members of the family to help with childcare. So, that is another reason why we're year round. So there's a lot of perception out there around Montessori, but you do find year round Montessoris like ourselves that sort of, follow both. And I think to really answer your question, what's the difference? There isn't a huge difference. But the children do have a lot of freedom within limits. So, this freedom to choose activities from the shelves, or they might choose to go outside and spend time outside. But you would have an EYFS trained practitioner saying, but we do that in our setting. And I always say, exactly, they are pretty much, you can marry both. So if you understand the EYFS, you'll understand Montessori, no problem at all.
Okay, amazing. And sort of going back into where you've come from, so you've got your background in corporate banking, and now you're very successful in the early years. So how did you become employable, or how did you make yourself maintain employable between both those different industries? There's quite a few transferable skills that must be being applied there.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. I mean, to be honest, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I would go from a corporate environment, not to mind corporate banking, into early years. I never, not in my wildest dreams. If you'd said that to me 10 years ago, I would have just laughed. But life takes you in different directions. And I think the transferable skills from one industry to another, there are transferable skills there. And I think as well, if you mightn't, they're not that obvious to begin with, because one is an office-based job and one is very practical. But for example, working in a team, I've always worked in a team, whether it was in corporate or now, and I think that's really important. It's all about teamwork. They are two service industries, so you're dealing with people, albeit now my day-to-day would sort of be more with the children, but the children do have parents, and of course our partnership with parents is really important. So whether it's showing a parent around day one, or sort of linking in with a parent to have a meeting, or whatever it is, they are transferable skills. Equally, I suppose now in the position that I'm in, and the very fortunate position that I'm in running a business, we meet people from outside, whether it's for interviews or intermediaries, speech and language therapists, or to bring in people to do training with us. So there are a lot of transferable skills there, and I honestly, I never would have thought there were, but actually there are. So I think that there is nothing in life that's a waste of time. And I think even if you start in a job that you think, actually, do you know what, maybe this isn't for me long term, I think my advice would be to stick with it, in my own view, for at least 2 years. And there will be skills in there that you can bring anywhere with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I guess so obviously you're a director, and so you're responsible for actually employing people as well. So is there any particular skills that you look for when you are employing staff to bring on in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. I mean, I started Storybook 5 years ago, and I've met lots of different people on that journey. With a recruitment hat on, when you own your own business, you wear lots of different hats. So as a HR, sort of, with the HR hat on, I've learned a lot in terms of recruitment. And one thing I would say now is that we've a really high standard in terms of a staff team. So, sort of people who are performing or who perform every day with the children, that is a very high standard that everyone now sort of adheres to. And that's really important for me, because the nature of what we do, we've little children on site every day, and they deserve the absolute best. And you can only get that when you have a fantastic staff team who are passionate and professional, and they adhere to the same values, same high standards as I do. But what I've learned from it is that if we get a CV now, and this is advice that I would give to anyone, this is my own view, is that if you have moved around a lot, if you've a CV that hasn't sort of, where you haven't stayed in a role for more than a year, we discount those CVs straight away. So what we would say to somebody is, the best thing you can do is take on a job, stay in it for 2 years, and then look to sort of say, look, this is what I've learned from here. I am moving on because of X, Y, and Z. Obviously, if there are issues within that organization, move on, but make that call quickly. If you have a CV where you're moving on all the time, it instantly brings up red flags. And I think it's very difficult. I've been through it myself, where in my own first real job, was in sort of big world job, I didn't love it. And after the first 2 months, I wanted to leave. After the first 6 months, I wanted to leave. After the first year, I still wanted to leave. But I got very good advice at the time, and it was around that, look, your first job is very difficult. It's actually, even in terms of the working hours, it's really difficult. You have to be in the same place every day, and follow sort of, a path where you think anyone could do this, but it's all part of the training. And I got very good advice at the time, where it was like, look, just stick with it for 2 years, and then, decide what you're going to do. And it's funny, I have to say, with that HR hat on in running my own business, I really do think it's important. And I think if you've never had a job before and it's your first job, I appreciate the difficulties attached to that, because often you need experience to get experience. But we do recruit graduates here at Storybook, and people coming out of college. And to those people, what I would say is, look, if you have an attitude where it's sort of a can-do attitude, and you're willing to learn, then if you bring that with you to an interview, or indeed to a placement, we will absolutely give you a job. Because the really good thing about early years is that it's a very caring, nurturing industry to work in. And we've all been trainees ourselves. So you're going to be with, a group who are really going to take you under their wing, and help you along that path. And of course, you'd be following a training plan, and all that kind of thing. So if you're willing to commit to it, as a trainee, then I think there are great opportunities in early years. And one thing I would say is about early years, I think it's amazing that you can come out of college and be an expert in an industry in your early 20s, because you're starting younger. And that was really difficult for me as somebody in their 30s who just joined the industry and was learning about working with children. It was actually the 20 somethings that really helped me on my journey, because they'd been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and they were brilliant at what they did. And I actually think it's a huge advantage for people coming out of college, that you can have that level of expertise in an area that it'll take you far. It will really take you far if you're looking to progress.
Yeah, that's amazing advice, actually. Yeah, thank you. So there's a lot of skills that you're sort of talking about there, and I wonder if you could go back to your 18-year-old self. Is there anything that you would go back and tell yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be Be patient, I think, is the big one, because I think when you come out of school and college and university or whatever it might be, that you're used to going at a pace that's very, very fast. If you think about it, you're doing exams and you're reading and you've got to be here, there and everywhere. But things, when you enter the world of work, I think you just need to be a little bit more patient, because in my own journey anyway, I was definitely that person in the first few years. It was like, I could do this in my sleep, and who are these idiots telling me what to do, kind of thing. But it's all part of the journey, and I think you've got to sort of settle in and get used to the working world when you do start. So for some people, they may love it straight away, and that's fantastic. But for more, it may be a challenge of, as I say, being in the same place every day, for long hours, and learning all the time. So I would say be patient, particularly in the first job. And I think it never hurts to have a plan going into your first job, or even a buddy or a mentor, somebody you can talk to in work or outside of work, where you might have those days where it's like, God, I've only been here, a couple of months and I'm really not sure about this. I think that's where you need somebody just, coaxing you along and saying, look, just stick with it. Think of your CV, think of the plan over the next 3 years, and sort of navigate your way through.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really good advice. Thank you. And so I guess we've sort of spoken about loads of different tips going through and what you think are tips for success, I guess. But if you had to pick one skill or tip that you would give for someone that is maybe trying to follow in your footsteps, maybe probably into the early years category, what would you say is your biggest tip for someone?
I would say being, having perseverance, I think, is the big one. I think it's a hugely rewarding industry that I work in, and I think it's a real privilege to work with children who are so young. And I know the team here at Storybook feel exactly the same way. It's a tough, it is tough. The days can be tough because they're long and you're working with children. However, it's hugely rewarding, and I think that's where the perseverance comes in, because you might have days where it's sort of like, God, am I making any impact here at all? And then all of a sudden, a child will pick up on a learning point, or just take you by the hand and show you something, or give you a little hug, or vice versa, and you're just like, okay, this just all makes sense. So I think, there are definitely tough days with it. And perseverance always sort of shines through. I think, again, that's where having your little plan of why are you doing something, why are you getting into it, and I think you can always anchor back to that if you're having a tough day. But the children will always pick you up as well, and the people you work with. But yeah, I think just perseverance and keep going. And yeah, that would be my top tip, really.
That's amazing. Thank you. So it's been so lovely talking to you, actually, and I think you're such a good example of someone that didn't necessarily keep in the industry that you originally trained in, but are now doing a job that you absolutely love, and there are those transferable skills across any sort of professional platform that you can bring to just about any industry. So thank you so much. It's been really nice talking to you. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alex, and best of luck. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Talking Futures, the video podcast that talks to different professionals from different industries. It was brought to you from the Beyond BCA team here at the Berkshire College of Agriculture.